Hey, what's up, everybody? It is your boy BQ. Welcome back to the Negative BQ YouTube channel. This is your turning point review for 2024. I know it's coming at you guys a little bit late. The holiday really threw things off for me, and I mentioned that last week when I was reviewing Impact. I said that I've been watching Turning Point a little late, and I wasn't quite sure when it was going to come out. I mean, I was hoping to do it a lot earlier in the week than this, but the holiday really threw things off because I didn't watch it when it aired, as I never do. But then I didn't watch it the next day or the next day or the next day after that. It took me a little while to get to Turning Point, but before I obviously review the next episode of Impact, we had to get into it. One time for your mind. Um, so the first and foremost, I know that people are going to assume that I would completely shit over the production because that was my thing for a really long time. Production value, the way it looked, the way it sounds. Like I've been talking about that for years now, right? I'm not going to lie to you. The This will shock many of you. Visually, it didn't bother me. Audio wise, yes. You know, they're clearly using the WrestleCade staff, the WrestleCade equipment. So, you know, the microphones, you know, Joe Hendry cutting a promo sounded like crap. Jade on doing the ring announcing sounded like crap. So yeah, that actually kind of bothered me. Visually, it didn't bother me so much. I know that it was low budget. I know we're getting used to better production value. We've been promised better production value. The reason it didn't bother me is because for years I had been watching this show not give two shits. And I don't mean the whole company, but the people in charge of editing the show, not giving two shits about how it looked. There was piss yellow filters. There was uh, color correcting, over color correcting. There was not white balancing cameras. You would see the hard cam, the action in the ring, and then they would switch another camera, and it looked like completely different color levels. Uh, over contrast. You know, I talk a lot about taking the contrast setting, and when you move the slider too far, everything that's black blends together. So, you know, you would see guys, the referees looking like they're like a head floating in air because their legs were completely blended into the background, and a lot of the wrestlers wear black, so looked like the show like really looked like shit for so long. For me, even though this was kind of dark lighting, e- because they weren't messing with the editing and the levels, and it was just raw video footage, I was able to live with it, and I was able to, frankly, look past it. Did it sound like shit? Yes. Should they put out shows like this at this quality? No, because then you start posting these clips on social media, and then people start getting in the comments, "What happened to TNA?" And we're here all over again. All right, so I don't think they should take any steps backwards in relation to presentation. So keep this in mind for the future. They do WrestleCades, they do shows at any kind of convention. That's probably how it's going to look. The way the Twitch shows used to look, because those were like house shows. You know what I mean? And they didn't use their TV production crew. They're saving a few bucks. I don't think they should do that. I don't think WWE in the same. Obviously, we're talking two different levels of budget and production and finances, but from a mentality standpoint, I don't think WWE would ever be like, "Hey, this is the house show. We're just gonna give them some bullshit house show quality." You know what I'm saying? So it did not really bother me that much though. I took notes for this show. My computer kind of rebooted on me before I could save it, so I'm gonna do my absolute best, you know, to kind of remember what I had written down. Um, but we're gonna get into this one time for your mind because I am your boy
A
BQ.
kick out.
All right, so the pre-show for this, I guess it was it the countdown to Turning Point? Sorry, I had yeah, so it was the countdown. It featured
TNA Impact. Oh.
Well, it featured Tom Hannafin and his buddy Matt
Hey
Raywall.
man, I really appreciate that Patrick Price on my insurance, Jake from State Farm.
So the countdown kicked off with Knockouts three-way. We had Rosemary,
I know what cankles are. Rosemary doesn't have them.
Savannah Evans,
That's a huge bitch.
and queen of the rubber match, Xia Brookside. So we had a 3-way knockouts match. Thought the match was okay. I should actually rewind before this because remember, again, I'm kind of not really going off notes. It kicked off with Joe Hendry coming out, and I was talking about this. I don't remember. I did 2 podcasts with Mike Gilbert last night. I don't remember if it was on mine or his. I think it was on mine. Joe Hendry is clearly over. The people clearly like him. The people are clearly coming to see him. But I always feel like they should feature him on the show. I'm not saying, oh, give it a break, give Joe Hendry a break. That's not what I'm saying. But it just always feels like they are shoving him out there, like someone's out there pushing. Go out there and get the fans going. Kind of like Eric Young was that rah-rah guy for a little bit. They're just like kind of forcing him out there. They're forcing Joe Hendry out there. And they're just like, hey, we got to play Joe Hendry's song as many times as possible. We got to put him out there as many times as possible. You are going to overexpose him if you have that kind of mentality. But he came out cutting some jokes. It was fine. We got to remember this is kind of a house show. This isn't TV. So, if that's how they wanted to kick it off to get people going, then more power to them. But anyway, this was a 3-way knockouts match. I enjoyed the match because I didn't know who was going to win. For me as a fan, when I don't know who's going to win a match, I'm always invested in it much more. And I was leaning towards Rosemary because I think I said it a couple weeks ago on the podcast when we're talking about what's next for Masha Slamovich in regards to defending her championship. I was kind of like, I see Rosemary getting that first shot. She had a title shot versus Jordan Grace. I think she answered the open challenge a couple months ago, ended up kind of being a no contest. They just completely blew it off. Because when you get when you have a title match and it's a no contest, you're supposed to get a rematch and freaking wrestling rules, So I was pretty certain Rosemary was going to get one of the first title shots. Now we know she's not going to win because the first challenger rarely does. Every blue moon, like if you're a Laredo Kid, yeah, absolutely, drop your title to the first possible person. Rosemary, for whatever reason, they have not fully gotten behind as a champion. They've given her the Knockouts Tag Team title several times, consolation prize, because has longevity with the company. People who have longevity with the company don't seem to carry titles. It's whoever the shiny new toy is from WWE that tend to carry them a lot of the times. Sounded like Santino, a lot of the time. So I thought the match was fine from that standpoint that I didn't know who was going to win. You also got Savannah Evans, where it's like, well, they're trying to build her up a little bit. Maybe she should get the win. Now, if you're going with Rosemary, but you also kind of want to keep Savannah Evans strong, Xia Brookside's not doing anything. She's not working with anyone. She's not having a rubber match with Heather by Elegance. She's the person who was supposed to take the pin here, right? I don't know why they had her do the Brooksy bomb on Savannah Evans because I don't want to call it a bullshit finisher, but it sort of is at the same time. In this, not that it's not devastating, but in the sense that in a real fight, you couldn't land that move, especially against someone of Savannah Evans' size. Now with the finish, and this is what I hate about 3-ways and triple threats. They always end the same exact way. Someone hits their finisher, they go for the pin. Someone breaks it up and gets the pin instead, or whatever. It's not quite what happened here, but it's in that general realm. Like they only have 2 or 3 ways. 3 is being generous of ending a 3-way match. Wrestling in general. So Xia Brookside hits the Brooksy bomb again. Not a move that I think she should be doing on Savannah Evans, but she hits it. I believe Rosemary broke it up, and then Xia Brookside just stands up like a goof and runs into the spear, and then takes the pin. So Rosemary wins. They are going to use that singular match as her justification for being the number 1 contender for the Knockouts title. So cool because we like Rosemary. But I think people would be more invested in a title match where you think Rosemary may win, because fans like to get behind her. So Rosemary was your winner there. After that, I don't know if this was on the countdown or not, but I believe it was. I don't know. But it was a King of the Block Party, Frankie Kazarian.
It's a block party. I'm not playing with y'all, bro.
Versus Mike Santana.
That's nasty.
Definitely one of the better matches on this whole card. I thought this show was okay. I thought it was fine. I thought it was okay. The TNA Plus shows tend to be very, very good. This was fine. It wasn't bad. It was fine. It was fine. This was one of the better matches on this. We had a feeling it probably would be. When they first announced it, I had said, well, I don't know who's going to win this because they both need a win. But as I'm saying that out loud, I said, well, no, this company has no problem beating Frankie Kazarian. I was very shocked that Tom Hannafin said Frankie Kazarian had not been pinned in 5 or 6 months. He was referring to a one-on-one match because I assure you this fucker has been pinned. He got pinned at Slammiversary. There's been matches where this fool has lost. So to pitch that he is on some kind of hot streak is incorrect. I know he won the Call Your Shot Gauntlet. He's got a couple wins under his belt. But again, to pitch that he's on some sort of upwards momentum swing is not true. We're going to see Frankie lose a lot, I think, between now and when he ultimately cashes that thing in. Because I think that is going to be their way of trying to like throw us off or whatever. But very, very, very good match. I say this all the time. Some guys with some size that can work. I'm into it. So up to this point, we're off to a good start. Again, I'm not really bothered by the production value because I think it's looked significantly worse in the past. So I can live with it. Next is the Turkey Bowl match, the Eli Drake Turkey Trot or whatever the hell it's called. We had Joe Hendry.
Believe that.
Hammerstone.
Loud noises! I don't know what we're yelling about!
Replacing PCO was the Vietnam War machine, Rhino.
Tell us about the war. Any one of them.
King of the Rah-Rah, Eric Young.
I think those times are like the rah-rah speeches and like getting everybody up. Because like nobody really get motivated off that stuff anyway.
Brian Myers.
What is she going to think when she comes in here? Oh, look, he's got a billion toys.
And representing the good hand jobs, Jason Hotch.
Hey, for another 60, I'll jerk you off in the parking garage.
It was not Jason Hotch, it was John Schuyler. Anyway, this is your Turkey Bowl match. This match is a silly match, but it's kind of over. I didn't really think Hammerstone should have been in it. I don't think Brian Myers should have been in it. But then again, this current version of TNA does not have a lot of jobbers. If you rewind 10, 12 years, you had all sorts of jobbers in the X division. You had comedy characters. You could throw a Johnny Swinger in there. Years ago they threw Disco Inferno in there. Like you kind of had goofy characters you can use where they don't really have that this time around. I think everyone expected. I mean, I think I guaranteed it. The Aaron DMT, like Charles Barkley, guaranteed that John Schuyler was going to wear this turkey suit thing. Now, when I said that, it was just on the tip of my tongue. I almost said, you know what, Brian Myers may wear this thing. But then I pulled back on it because I'm trying to use a little bit of common sense in my head. I said, okay, dude's multi-time tag team champion this year. They're trying to present this as the most dominant faction in the company. His tag team partners wrestling for the world title in the main event. All these things I'm taking into consideration. I did not expect Brian Myers to lose this match and to put on the turkey suit. I thought that was a very poor choice. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's TNA Plus. But I do think it's kind of a poor choice because Brian Myers is one of those dudes. He is he has had to work very hard to separate himself from being the jobber he was in WWE. If you look at Aaron Stevens, aka Aaron Rex, aka Damian Sandow, I'm going to sneeze, so let me hit pause for a second. And I'm back, the magic of the internet. But I'm talking about Aaron Stevens. And it does not matter what this guy does. He has tried to reinvent himself. He will always be Damian Sandow. Always. Brian Myers, people do not call him Kurt Hawkins. He is reestablished himself. He is Brian Myers. I don't think you should put him in these kind of scenarios where he comes off as a jobber when you're trying to like kind of make this dude semi legit. He's held multiple titles in your company, and he's he's always been one of the better parts of the show in my opinion. He's a good worker. I would not have put the turkey suit on him because you've got Dango in that faction who could wear the freaking turkey suit and you can have the same effect. So they did swerve us a little bit because we thought John Schuyler was going to end up with a turkey suit. That was not the case. It was Brian Myers. Then after he tried to leave afterwards, after Joe Hendry pinned him, I knew Joe Hendry was going to win though. I knew he was going to win the match because you're not going to put Joe Hendry in this and him just be a bystander. So that was something that was very, very clear from when they put him in the match because he was the only storyline reason someone was in the match that he was going to get the win. So that was it was just who was he going to beat? That's that's the only thing. So anyway, try to take off baby faces, chase him back in, hit some finishers, whatever, put him in the turkey suit. I can appreciate what they're doing with Joe Hendry, trying to start him from the bottom. The problem is they don't have a history of doing this for anyone else. Remember at one point, every single champion was a fighting champion. Mike Bailey, Jordan Grace, Nick Nemeth, everyone was fucking fighting champions, right? And there's a lot of stories like that within TNA. Rosemary just won some random three-way that they didn't even say was for the number one contender. She's the number one contender. You know what I'm saying? On this episode of Impact, AJ Francis just walked up in the hall, said, "I want to fight you," and he's the number one contender. Starting Joe Hendry from the bottom is kind of silly because I pointed out before he was legitimately screwed at Bound for Glory. So, if anyone should just be handed a rematch, it's him. I can appreciate what they're doing, try to start from the bottom. But what I told you guys, I said this like 3 weeks ago, that he will not, he's saying I'm going to start from the bottom. I said the bottom in TNA is he's going to wrestle Turkey Bowl. He's going to wrestle one other match, and then he's going to be a number one contender. I'm pretty sure that's where they're going with it. I think the number one contender match is actually next week on Impact. I don't know for sure, but I compared it to Mickey James, the last rodeo. I'm going to beat every knockout on the roster, beats 3, and is the number one contender. I said the same thing was going to happen with Joe Hendry. Turkey suit, one more match, number one contender. So we'll see if that's how it ultimately plays out. I don't think Hammerstone should have been in this. I would imagine that they're trying to build. I shouldn't say they're trying to build because they're not trying to build them, but him and Jake something makes sense to challenge the Hardys very, very soon. I mean, it makes sense. Who the hell else is going to do it? You know what I mean? So I just don't think he should be in this match. But it's all good. All good. All good. All good. What do we have after this? X Division Championship match.
Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge.
X Division Champion and 2-time Grand Champion Moose.
Damn you, Moose.
Versus the number one contender for the digital media title, Laredo Kid. I know 99% of you are not going to agree with me. I hated this. Now, from a wrestling standpoint, the match was good. Okay, I'm not saying the match sucked. Laredo Kid is a great first opponent. He did nothing to earn this title shot. Okay, Joe Hendry got to start from the bottom, putting on the turkey suit, but Laredo Kid hasn't won a match since the first Bush administration. But he's the number one contender for the X Division Championship. He might be the only person who's a number one contender for 2 titles at the same time. but I hated it because even though he was a good first opponent, Moose should have beat this motherfucker in 4 minutes. He is presented as a jobber on TV. If I want to watch a bunch of competitive matches and no storytelling, I will watch AEW. And I think they're trying to show that Moose can have X Division style matches, which we know he can. But I'm saying this all the time, guys. Everyone's gimmick can't be, I'm going to go out there and have good matches and I'm going to be the best wrestler. And that can't be what everybody's gimmick is. Moose should be a dominant champion. Bobby Lashley won the X Division title, and he wasn't going out there in his first title defense having selling for Mark Andrews and having a competitive 10-minute match with him. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was actually running through motherfuckers and destroying them until the right opponent came around. Now, the right opponent is probably going to be Leon Slater. I don't think he's there yet. I think he's the guy for the X Division. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's there yet to be the champion. I'm having a hard time seeing how they build him up in this, against Moose ultimately. But Moose should be whooping this dude's ass. He should be whipping Kushida's ass. They should be feeding him X Division style dudes, and he should be destroying them and being dominant. I want a story here. We don't get stories in the X Division. This is a rare opportunity to have a story in the X Division. And Moose being a dominant champion who's not cheating, Alicia's not tripping opponents, the system's not getting involved. Like, he should just be like damn near like, I don't even need the system, and beating these guys. And then you start little by little trying to find opponents for him. But instead, it looks like it's not about weight limits. It's no limits. And we're going to have fucking Tom Hannafin jerk off and a kick out, matches every single week or on TNA Plus or pay-per-view, whatever. Like, it seems like that's what they're going to do. And that's just not what I want from this. So again, the match was good if you're talking about a professional wrestling match, but I want some story here. I want Moose to be a badass, unbeatable champion. That's what I want. He can be a little bit of a chicken shit, a little bit of a cheater as the world title, whatever. But in this scenario here, whoop these dudes' asses. These guys who don't beat anybody and who are half his size. I will watch AEW if I want to see a big guy and a little guy have a competitive match. But yeah, Moose ultimately wins here. I thought he should have won one, though. Like, I thought he should have, straight up whooped this dude. After this, we had two guys that I like to watch work. Steve Macklin.
For the land of the free.
And Josh Alexander.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
In a no disqualification garbage match.
Get that garbage out of here!
I have a question first. First, before I get into the match. You know that I'm someone who likes to point out common sense, or what I think is common sense at least. If this is no disqualification, if there's no rules, if anything goes, how are the Northern Armory banned from ringside? Somebody make that make sense. Maybe they had fucking travel issues, which that's the new TNA excuse, right? Everyone's got travel issues. PCO had travel issues earlier in the night. Let's keep it kayfabe a little bit. Now you're saying, PCO had travel issues with so PCO's plane ticket. Like, this guy, this dude who's French Canadian Frankenstein. Like, we're now picturing him at the airport, wondering, why he got kicked out of coach, why his flight was overbooked, or maybe he was running late, maybe he took an Uber, maybe he took a Lyft, and he got stuck in traffic, and so now that's where my head is going, because you're talking about PCO. Vince McMahon would have been like, the Undertaker is having travel issues and he's not going to be here tonight. Come on. Everyone has travel issues in this company. They've already had travel issues once, so maybe they don't want to say it again, to make it look like these motherfuckers don't know how to catch a flight. But if there are no rules, anything goes. How can you ban someone from ringside? How does that make any sense whatsoever? So Josh's guys are banned, but what if Macklin decided he wanted to trot out 3 or 4 dudes and whoop Josh Alexander's ass? Like that, to me, that just doesn't make any sense. You either have rules or you don't have rules. That's why I hate these garbage matches, because there's so much open for interpretation when you start saying, hey, there's no rules, that there's just, you have so many logic holes in it. These are 2 guys I like. I like to watch them work. This is not a stipulation that I ever enjoy. The garbage match. Get that garbage out of here.
Get that garbage out of here!
The cookie sheets, the trash cans, all that stuff. That does nothing for me. Especially when we had it last week on the show and the fucking week before, and the knockouts are doing it, and we're doing all, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you just keep giving us garbage matches nonstop, then this means nothing. And this is one of your better feuds in the company. If not your best feud. If not your best story, this is it. Both of them have new music, you know what I'm saying? Or they've had new music lately, and they both like start to look and sound like stars now when they come out. So the match was good, but I just didn't like the stipulation for this. You knew that Steve Macklin was going to win because he lost the first one. You know they're going to go best out of 3, rubber match. Shout out to Xia Brookside. You knew they were going that direction, but when you had one match where this dude's got zip ties and he's wrestling, and then the next match they're using every weapon known to man, what the hell are you going to do for the third match? Anything short of a steel cage would be a huge disappointment, and they haven't had a steel cage since like Tessa Blanchard was around. So I don't think that's the direction they're going. But you kind of have to at this point. I hope that they're just completely pull out of their ass a steel cage, and we're having our first steel cage match in 7 years. You know what I'm saying? That's what I hope they do, because when you have zip ties one match and no DQ the next, like, what the hell? You can't just have a normal match. Josh had a hard time beating Macklin, who had his hands tied behind his back. Macklin had a hard time beating Josh, hitting him with every weapon that he could find. What do you do for the third one? What do you do for the rubber match? You know, so I am hoping, I am praying that there is a cage, or that is, it's probably going to be last man standing. I want it to be a cage. I don't think it's going to be. I think very likely we're going to get a last man standing match that they could potentially write Josh out of the company with, if they need to, if he doesn't end up re-signing. So remember, I'm saying that right now, last man standing, that's probably what they're doing. I think I usually have a pretty good grasp on what kind of stipulations they're going to, put on a match. I would rather see them both be zip tied behind their back and wrestle, in all honesty, because I believe they could do it. And I think they can make it fun and exciting, and it's different, and it's crash television. It's something, you're just throwing it out there, see if this fucking works. You know what I mean? Like, take a chance. It's probably gonna be last man standing. But Steve Macklin obviously wins this thing. And we got a 6-way tag team match. Ace Austin.
Is this your card?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
It's
wonderful.
And the Hardys. I cut off the soundbite. So Ace Austin and the Hardys, they took on this Trey Miguel had travel issues. Like, fire whoever books these people's travel. Trey Miguel had travel issues, so we had Zachary Wentz.
In one word, would I use dope? Nope.
Game changer, Kushida.
Probably the greatest free agent signing in the history of professional wrestling.
And they had a mystery tag team partner. And it was, I didn't even write his name down because obviously I'm not going off notes right now. What the hell's his name? The original bro, Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle. I've never understood what the original bro is. That doesn't make any sense to me. His theme song is cold. That is one of the better theme songs. I don't know if that is something popular, like an industry track. I don't know if that's just what he uses on the indies. I don't know if it was his WWE music. I really don't care. Like, that is a great theme. The people chanting bro with it, very badass. I don't like him. I never have. I find his character annoying. Um, I don't take this as him being a part of the Impact roster. Everyone's like, "Oh, well, Matt Riddle's in TNA now." I don't think he did the tapings. I don't think. Maybe he did. I'm only about halfway through Impact. I'm going to wrap it up after this so I can review it. He's still doing work with the MLW. I think he was just, hey, we need somebody. He's there. This would be cool. It makes sense with the Zachary Wentz gimmick. Smoke him if you got him, right? So it makes sense. They're at WrestleCade. I think they just used the dude. I don't think he's going to be part of TNA's roster going forward. Could be wrong. I don't think so. And also, he was on the losing side of the match. So if you're debuting a WWE guy, TNA does not beat WWE guys who debut. So I think he's, they stayed the course. They already knew that Ace Austin and Hardys were going to win the match. So they'll just get someone out there to pop the crowd. And I think that's all it was. So I thought it was a pretty decent 6-way. They pinned Kushida at the end, who for some reason earned a number one contenders match the very next week, and now is the number one contender for the X Division Championship. So make that make sense. I don't know. They probably were going to have Trey Miguel get pinned. That's probably what was going to happen, or they could have, pinned the number one contender for the X Division Championship, Zachary Wentz, but they pinned Kushida. And then we got Knockouts World Title match. This was 2 out of 3 falls. Knockouts World Champion Masha Slamovich.
Meet Fran Stalinaskavich Davidovitsky.
And the challenger, Jordan Grace.
Get me out of here!
So I'm going to say something kind of maybe controversial is not the right word. I would have had Masha win both falls. This along with Santana and Frankie Kazarian were the best matches on the card. I would have had, if you're trying to establish Masha, because remember, Masha has wrestled Jordan Grace several times and been unable to beat her. She beat her last time. So to make this where it's not a fluke, have her win both falls. I've only seen that one time in the history of pro wrestling. It was Candice Michelle. She lost 2-0, but I think she got hurt in the match, so they had to go home. But 2 out of 3 falls is always, hey, we're going to the third fall, right? Again, throw something at the wall, see if it sticks, do something crazy. Instead of the same formula that everyone does, the same formula you have done for a very long time. And you've got this very dominant Jordan Grace who's leaving. Have Masha beat her 2 falls. That's what I would have done. Clearly, I do not work there. I'm not in creative. I'm not running things. But I would have had Masha be the dominant champion. And I think she won with the package pile driver at the end. So when she beat Alicia Edwards the other day, I was commending them for her not using a finisher to win a match. I think this is their new finisher. So, because Telegraph and Tom kept referring back to the match with Alicia, like, oh, that's how she beat Alicia, the package pile driver. So I think that's her new finisher. We're gonna see what happens, but I know Jordan Grace is gonna be wrestling Tasha Steelz next week. Tasha Steelz should win the match. Not going to, I don't think. Maybe she does. I don't know. I'm not saying Jordan should just go putting everyone over on the way out, but if you're not going to lose 2-0 in this match, then lose to Tasha Steelz. You know what I'm saying? Like, what at this point, what does Jordan Grace win matches do for TNA? Nothing. You have nothing you can capitalize on going forward here with her. You've got her for a couple more months, right? Maybe 1 month. They got this title match out of the way. They're going to move on to Rosemary and Masha. Beat her 2-0. At one point, Rosemary came out during this match. And fucking phony Tom. Is that Rosemary? She is the only knockout who lurks in the shadows, wearing face paint. just talked about how she's going to challenge the winner of this match. Can anything be natural with this guy? Anything. Just one thing, please. Is that Rosemary? I may have to clip that for the Rosemary soundbite rather than the Rosemary Kankles soundbite. I may have to get Telegraph and Tom, Phony Tom, with the "Is that Rosemary?" So that's what I should do. But yeah, but very, very good match. Masha Slamovich does win 2 out of the 3 falls.
Oh, and a kick out.
And then we had the main event, world title match. We had Eddie Edwards.
All right, son, I'm gonna need those 2 hams back.
I don't have any hams.
Lift up your shirt, son.
Accompanied by Alicia Edwards.
Hey, baby.
And they challenged the TNA world champion, Nick Nemeth.
I've been talking to people walking here. We've been talking about next year, and I'm sitting there saying, I'm not going to be here.
Nick has not had that many good matches in TNA. He's had some good ones. Let me not act like he hasn't, but it just always seems like all I can think about is John Layfield getting involved in his matches. I don't care about John Layfield. I didn't care when he showed up the first time. He is legitimately one of my least favorite people in wrestling. The only time I was ever into him was his world title run. I thought that was entertaining. I'm never pleased with commentary. He was on commentary for a long time. Awful. I don't care about this dude. I don't care what his mission is. I don't care if he's just trying to get himself over so he can take this gimmick or whatever to WWE, like show up on WWE television and ruin the main event. I don't care. I don't care. I can't say that without the soundbite.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you,
We don't care.
But we knew he was going to get involved in this because he's been doing it every single time. We don't know what's Eddie Edwards obviously loses. They have a pretty good match. Nick Nemeth always says he's going to steal the show. He doesn't. Someone else does. And then the thing is, Layfield comes out, ruins the matches. At one point, Alicia was kicked out and then came right back. This just was not really that good of a main event. It should have been a lot better than it was. Talking about Nick Nemeth versus Eddie Edwards, even though you knew Eddie was going to win, should have been a very, very good match. But the problem is Layfield comes out, hits the clothesline, knocks people under ass, lays them out, and then we don't talk about him again for a month on TV. He has nothing to do with the television show. They don't even name drop him on the show. I don't know a single person who cares about this. Not a single person. I have not seen one person on social media. I wonder what John Layfield is going to do next. Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you,
We don't care.
And then we go off the air. So, pretty solid show, all things considered. I would say the average TNA fan probably probably thought it was a lot better than I did, just because Moose and Laredo Kid I didn't like. Steve Macklin and Josh Alexander I thought was okay, but it's just the stipulation I don't like, and I thought it went too long. So I would imagine the average TNA fan liked both of those very much. So you probably thought it was a pretty decent card. You know what I mean? Even the turkey match, even though it's kind of a silly match, it's not one of those matches where people like they need to get rid of this. This isn't IPWF. You know what I mean? Where they're like, please never do that again. Like it's a tradition that they do. People are into it. It gets over. So, there was nothing I'll say bad on the card. There was just some things I didn't personally like just as a wrestling fan or whatever. But the main event was probably the worst part of the show, honestly. I'm just going to keep reiterating. I do not care what John Layfield's mission statement is. He doesn't show up on TV. He doesn't cut promos. Obviously, the story is that he's this mysterious whatever, but I mean, like I said, they don't even talk about it on the show. He has nothing to do with anything, and he's doing it at indie shows too, so it's kind of like, what the fuck is this? That's going to do it for me, folks. We're going to wrap it up here right around 40 minutes, and I'll be back real soon to talk Impact, the actual episode of TNA Impact. I'm your boy BQ, and I am out. Peace.